Welcome to the Caribbean Property Investing Podcast, where we share real-life experiences for successful Caribbean property entrepreneurs. Learn about their successes, challenges, and strategies to help you create your plan for financial freedom. Now let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 43 of the Caribbean Property Investing Podcast. This is the first podcast for 2024. Admittedly, we released episode 42 January 1st, but for the year, so we're probably 9 episodes down. We're going to still try to get 12 episodes at least in before the year end because there's so much to share. For the last 9 months, I've been working tirelessly on 2 projects. One is a 10-unit condominium development, and the other is my first ever renovation, converting a 2-apartment building to 4 units, 3 2 bedrooms and one bedroom. By far, this has been the most difficult real estate investment project, real estate property upgrade ever, transaction ever. And rest assured, we'll be covering them in detail in future podcasts. But today, kicking off our 2024 episodes is one that I've waited a long time for. I've been excited about getting that he's finally here. Our next guest is a St. Lucian icon. He is a world-renowned artist, and we'll hear what type of art he does a little later on, but a supremely talented brother who is now, after making his name on the global scale in his art, now dabbled or now ventured into property investing. That's why we're here. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Jalim Eudovic.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a long time coming, but guess what? I'm finally here.
Yeah, and you are actually our first guest for 2024, even all the way in September.
Yes, but I feel this is the opportune time because I would say September is the precursor of October, which is the opening of the tourism month. So I couldn't think of a more ideal time.
Just in time. So I've known Jalim for a very long time. I've had the utmost respect for him. From a young person, he has put our country so much on the map. And Jalim, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and life before property?
Well, I'm a sculptor by profession, a sculptor by passion, a sculptor by just me pursuing my happiness. I think that's what we're all here for, the pursuit of happiness. And so I grew up in an artistic family. My entire family is sculptors. You know, in the typical family, they talk about a black sheep. So the black sheep is someone who doesn't follow the family's legacy. So in my family, if you're not doing arts, then you're a black sheep. You know, so we all did arts. We all grew up in a very energized, a creative environment. My father and my mother were both creatives, and they decided to take the full hardy route of making a lifetime out of creativity. You know, and it was hard. It was hard because we're talking about the 70s and the 80s when I came about. The early 80s. I'm a child of independence. I was born in 1980. Just I would say the difficulty of making it in a country, in an economy that was not yet tourism, in an economy that was largely agriculture. I saw my parents struggle. So that struggle and that fight is in my DNA from day one. But what had us made it through those tough times was just love and family and our unity and the passion that you have to have for the arts, for when you're artists, the passion that will that will make you get through the day. And so in the 90s, when the tourism industry started to boom, the family business rode that wave all the way to now. I would say. So we are right now. We are a staple on the tourism routes. It's a must stop. Eudovic Art Studio has become an icon in the offerings of Saint Lucia in terms of the tourism industry. So that's the environment that I grew up in with my siblings and my dad being a master sculptor. And he imparted on all of us all that he knew. And of course I decided to take my own route and venture out into the world when I was quite young. I remember having my first exhibition at the age of 19 in Ottawa, Canada, and it was the first time I'd ever traveled that far. And I had to lug around a bunch of sculptures, behind me, not knowing how to collect customs, not knowing anything about that broader world, but feeling my way around the dark like a blind man, and many years later, many commissions later, many exhibitions later, many exploits later, um, I think I have developed the reputation of being accomplished in my field. Yeah, so just grateful to be here and grateful to do what I'm doing.
Now, there's a host of material that you can use for sculpting. What's your specialty for the benefit of the audience?
Well, my specialty, my heart is wood. I love to sculpt from the local mahoganies, the local hardwoods like Loyer Canel, Blue Maho, Loyer Mabwe, which is not much of a not much of a hardwood, but red cedar, and so on. The Senator is blessed with a plethora of beautiful woods. And the reason why I love wood so much, I love working with wood so much, is because it's organic. There's fragrance from the wood. There's things that you encounter in the wood, like the grains of the wood sometimes can be convoluted, which is not a very cooperative grain, but it allows you to think on your feet. Sometimes it is cooperative. You have the straight grain woods, you have the softer woods, you have the harder woods. I mean, just a plethora of things that you get when you work with this material. But I've also found myself falling in love with bronze as well, because bronze is it has a different application. Bronze is it has a permanent quality to it, and it has a life of its own. You might do a bronze piece, and it might be like a natural bronze patina, and with oxidation, it will turn green after a while. And I always love that quality about bronze and its ability to withstand the environment and so on.
Being a non-organic material, unlike the wood, what are some of the key, I guess, key differences and key challenges that one presents over the other?
I would say that wood sculpture is deductive. You start with a block of wood and you unlock what's in the wood. But bronze is installative, or it's additive. You start with nothing, and you build almost like you build a home. You have your So typically when you doing bronze, you have to do what is called the amateur. So the amateur is sort of like the skeleton of the sculpture that you're going to create. It could be out of wood, out of metal, but it must be able to sort of uphold what is coming next, which is typically clay. And that's what you sculpt in the bronze world. You sculpt clay. You don't sculpt metal, but you sculpt clay. And when you've done with that, you pull a mold from the clay, and there's a whole process where you end up with the actual bronze sculpture. So it's a more tedious process than wood, and it involves a lot of expertise and a lot of I would say technical skill sets that that you don't really get when you're sculpting with wood. With wood, it's just you and the material all the way.
In terms of your subjects for sculpting, generally, what kind of key areas have your have you sculpted, or has your work led you to produce in terms of themes?
Uh, I mean, typically, well, I would say I have been evolving. I like to note that. So in my younger years, um, my themes were sort of like family, love, community. I would call these films soft films, but I would say, that's a cliche, or the twee, meaning sweets, things that, younger artists do because, you in your early teens, I started to carve when I was 5 years old, and typically you will carve out of, experience, out of your life experience, and a 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old doesn't have a experience in life, In fact, you're not figuring on that level. But as I started to evolve, I started to dabble into more, cogent, political, global and diasporic themes. I started to look at my society in a more critical way. I started to look at the world in a more critical way. And as I started to travel widely, I realized that I was a black man in the world, and that had a certain connotation, that had a certain implication, you know, to it because in the Caribbean, it's all about equality, and it's all about we dominate our societies in the Caribbean, people of African heritage. But as soon as you venture out there, you realize it's a different kettle of fish. All of a sudden, you're a black man. You are not just a black man, but a black man from the Caribbean. you know, that kind of thing.
A minority.
So a minority. So then I had to navigate that space as well. I had to navigate that reality, and it just thrust me deeper and deeper and deeper into the philosophical things that come with that. What does that mean? What does it mean to be somebody from the Caribbean? What is my contribution to the world? What does my voice sound like? What do I want to talk about? So I've tackled topics like Black Lives Matter. When it just started off, I did shows in Miami and so on. Around in 2010, when there was the economical collapse in the world, like when the housing bubble had burst, and we had that economical recession. I did an exhibition called Kudme, which was a very traditional film, but it spoke volumes of what's happening in the world at the time. So what I did is I was answering questions of our purpose, and what it is that we are here to do in terms of the context of the economy and so on. Why is the world ailing? Why are we falling apart when it's not a pandemic caused by a disease? What is money? What is finance? So I went to the root of that, and what I realized that in my society, you know. We look at poverty in a different way, and we have solutions to financial problems that the world wouldn't imagine. So if you look at the whole concept of kudme is activity or tradition of people building homes. So what happens is you have the entire community coming together to assist an individual in building a house, right? And to me, that is so powerful because at the heart of Kunme is not money, but it's just a collective spirit of love. Really, there's no other way to put it. Where the entire community, carpenters, masons, everybody, musicians, the women will come and make food, and it'll be sort of like a festive environment and people drinking rum. But at the end of the day, you will have a house being built for you and for your family. And it wasn't money that was running that engine. It was just a
I
sheer,
think
indomitable will to make it happen.
I
So,
think I
so
think it's
my
also fair to say I think it's also fair to say that the expectation of the Kudme and the time invested by a neighbor is that somewhere down the line their house will also be built as well. They can get some reciprocity.
Absolutely. So it was sort of like a quid pro quo, you know. So you scratch my back, I scratch my back now, you scratch my back today. So we kind of pay forward, you know. So and so I was making that little naive statement. It was because I deliberately was naive about it because just the way it was dressed, we're like, but guys, wake up, wake up. We really need to fix this problem, and we really need to activate our humanity, you know. Because we could definitely fix hunger, we could fix poverty, we could fix all those issues if with time, with care, with love. So that's what the Kunme exhibition was about, and it went very far. The Kunme exhibition, it was exhibited in England, in St. Lucia, and in the US. You know, but there are other different styles. Then, all my Black Lives and my Miami and my London exhibitions as well. I did a different collection called Blocks. Blocks were a very contemporary collection, but because it was so contemporary, I was able to sort of edit my narrative in a very powerful way, and
Wow.
focus on certain issues.
Wow, I mean, that certainly sounds like an evolution. Two questions, last questions on your role as a sculptor. One, how far has your sculpting taken you geographically, and which piece or which body of work would you say is the one that you're most proud of?
Well, I've seen the world through my arts. I have been to the furthest corners of the world. I've been to Africa, Canada, to the US, to Europe, France, England, Dubai, and
China.
China. How can I forget China? My gosh, this is the place I've been to the most. But I guess it feels like home. That's why. Yes, but I'm evolving, so I think that my best work is ahead of me, really. But I'm proud of all my collections equally. It's like asking a father rich kid if he loves the best. Um, because I pour myself into all my pieces, all my work. I pour myself, and I'm a very slow artist. I don't rush collections. I have a collection now called Girl and Bird that I've been working on for the past almost 10 years now, and it's finished. It's been finished for about 4 years, and I'm still conceptualizing how to display it. And it's not for like a lack of interest, but I'm very careful because I'm trying to be as impactful as I can be, as I can be.
Okay, so let's fast forward to 2024. About 6 months ago, 7 months ago, you called me and told me you wanted me to see something that you were working on. And of course, one, I know you and I know what you do, and I'm always excited to see any of your work. And the fact that you trust me to give me a call to show me something, I was there like the next day. And I saw your sister, yourself, and you were working on a project, a renovation. So let's talk about that project. How did you first of all get involved in that project? Why? Where did you see it first of all? How did you get to know about it, and why did you guys decide to take on that project? Tell us about it.
Well, Ansem, there's a little backstory to that. Actually, you see, I remember when I was in Form 1, my father who is a sculptor, but he's also a builder as well, a self-taught builder. My father wanted to dabble in the accommodation space, Airbnb before Airbnb, um, because he saw that tide coming, and as a visionary, he decided, you know what, he needs to get in now. But what he lacked was the experience and the knowledge. So he built this sort of thing. He built a guest house. It was well built. because he's an artist, so it was aesthetically built. But the service behind it was not there, and he was very inexperienced and naive about what it took to run a business, that kind of business. So I remember going to St. Mary's College, and sometimes when I come back from school, I would have to go to those rooms, and because he built 2 rooms, he started off with 2 rooms, and I was the cable guy. I was the cable guy, So I'll go by, the electronic store Starlights on Bridget Street, St. Lucia, and buy little things and my crimping tools and attempt to do little maintenance work, right? And then, we opened our doors to the foreign market. At the time, the internet was just coming on stream. We got a computer, we started to advertise and so on. And I remember our first American guests, they came in and they were happy about it and so on because it was rustic. And then there was a great lull. And then we had another bunch of Americans come. It was a couple actually, sorry. And I remember they made a, a very disparaging statement about the property that stuck with me. They went into the room, they looked around, and they went outside, and they told the taxi driver, "Take us to a real hotel. Take us to a real hotel." So, so ever since I've endeavored to find out what a real hotel is. So so every time I travel, I I'm always finding myself in the sort of in the background of the operations of various hotels, and I'm saying making excuses why I'm there and looking at things and how they're running and so on. And but even before that, when I left school, my father wanted to get rid of the business, so I told him, what, let me help you with his business. So whilst I was sculpting and becoming a full-fledged sculptor, I was heavily dabbling in the hospitality space, when I was about 18 years old. So I'd already become a contractor and remodeled my dad's entire guest house and added about 5 more rooms to it, you know. And then I got people to come and made it a real hotel. So we had, you know, people, making up the beds and so on. Room service was on point. Just every other details, I investigated, like, what it took, and we executed. And right now, Eudovic Art Studio guest house, which is my family's guest house down in Goodlands, is always at an occupancy of about 90% on any given day of the week. So that's the knowledge that I took and brought it over to this project, but it was my sister Adeline Eudovic who was an investor. She dabbled into real estate when from the tender age of 16, so the 17 years, when she bought her first piece of property. It was a tiny piece of land in a small community in Chozel, Upper Pave. You will know Pave area and quite well. And and then she sold that piece of land and she bought another one, and she's always looking for the next deal, in terms of real estate. And one day she came upon this property, which was derelict, which was abandoned, which was ramshackle, which was not operated, which was a shell of its former self, and she asked me whether or not I wanted to invest, so I came on board, and we've been here ever since. We redesigned the place. We had to demolish almost about, I said, 90% of the building. The only things that we could have salvaged from this property was just the walls, the roof. We had to cut out the rooms entirely because this place was formerly a bed and breakfast, which had about maybe 10 rooms. And it was very well designed for its time. It was designed in the 70s and built in the 70s, but it was built very, very, very strong. There's lots of retaining walls everywhere and so on. So it sits on some prime property on the Mon and with some amazing views. So, when we came in, we wanted to pay homage to the views. And the previous building didn't have any balconies. There was no, glass doors where you could see the amazing views from your room. It was built in the style of the era, right? Sort of like a fortress because, it was built by Americans, Black Americans. Um, but so I guess they were coming into an environment that they were not used to and figuring about the hurricanes and so on. So they built it like a hurricane shelter almost. So so we had to demolish all these things and start anew. And it took us 2 years. I came in as a contractor and a designer as well.
Hold on. So you said a lot there for sure. So your sister, who's been in real estate for a little while, and again, I always tell our audience, our viewers, our listeners, you have to start where you're at. I don't know, as far as I know, was a civil servant, always hustling, always just trying to 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 do something progressive. So she would buy a small piece of land, sell it, and the point here is that anybody can start. So through all of her experiences buying and selling property, she stumbled across that she stumbled upon that property. When you saw it, apart from loving your sister and the views, what made you believe that there was potential there?
Well, just the location, it's just about 5 minutes away from Castries. So I immediately saw the connection to the airport where you have all those French tourists coming in. It is about 10 minutes away from the George F. L. Chance Airport. So I saw that connection as well. It is relatively close to to a beach because just lower down the road you have Sanders Latok. And there's a beach. Lots of people don't know, but all beaches essentially are public. People don't consider that there's a beach there, but there's a beach right there, very close proximity to the hotel. And I also realized that that it's an opportunity to diversify, what we were doing at Eudovic Art Studio, although it was separate from that because it was not an investment made by Eudovic Art Studio, but rather by just my sister and myself. But it was an opportunity to expand from what we knew as a family, adventure out into something a bit more adventurous, something more regional, more global. And it was an opportunity to do something to start with a clean palette, because I knew instantly that we had to just get rid of everything and cut out the entire building. And that excited me. I'm attracted to metamorphosis. I'm attracted to rebirth. I like these kind of concepts, the before and after shots. I love that.
Okay. All right. So you saw the property, you agreed, okay, let's go ahead. It's 10 rooms. At that point in time, when you had that initial meeting as to what the plans would look like, what was your thinking? Apart from diversification, what did you plan to do with the property? How many more rooms? What's your target market? Who are you looking for? And give us a sense of the kind of discussions that you had with your sister in creating the vision for what you now have today.
Yes, so primarily we were looking at the markets we were looking at were regional markets and international markets. Because we were very used to the local market. That is the lion's share of the family's business, because studio, guest house. So we were always quite curious about the the foreign markets. We saw them as more lucrative markets, and we knew that we had the capacity and we had the skill sets among ourselves to do something that met those international standards. I'm a student of architecture. I am not officially, but I'm a casual student of architecture. All my friends just happen to be designers and architects. You know, And I've always been given to interior design. I love interior design. So I would binge on the various programs on TV and so on Netflix, on the various stations, and the home makeovers. I'm addicted to these things. And as an artist, I've been I've always been in love with spaces, spaces and the conversion of spaces, and the zen and the feng shui and the spiritual components of a space. Because with my travels, I spend a lot of time in hotels. So when I go to China, typically I'll go to China to work for a month at a time, and I'll spend my entire time in a hotel. So there's nostalgia there for me, and I'm always, critiquing spaces and so on, like even in St. Lucia when I on my staycation with my wife and so on, I would say, but that could be better, that could be better. My wife will get annoyed sometimes and tell me, just enjoy the time, man. Why are you always critiquing the space? You know, so and I get a headache, and I realize that maybe I'm a bit too, OCD. So it was all these things, all in one. And I think my sister Adeline sort of the same too. So so the discussions was just they were a bit naive because we really and truly didn't know what we were getting into. You know, we didn't understand the accommodation and the pre-bookings and so on. To the point where I I felt at some time that I could have just get a like entire place booked for 6 months before we even build it and just get money in the bank and so on. And then I realized that's not how it works. But it's a good thing that we had that kind of naive approach, because if we had to consider what really obtained, or somebody had to come and tell us, we probably would have been scared. you know. So and when we came in, I came in and I thought that I could have knocked this out of the park in 6 months. And 2 years later, we were still, trying to put in little finishing touches and so on. And guess what? To add to the fun of it all, we built in the middle of COVID. And so I can remember seeing the prices of things skyrocket. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? A sheet of plywood went from $100 to about $280. It was crazy. So we had to find ways around that. We had to find, we had to tweak the design and so on. But what we knew for sure is that we wanted the design to be rustic. We wanted to use real materials, mahogany, red cedar. We wanted the rooms to be airy. We wanted the rooms to be all the materials that we use to be steeped in our local craft and so on. And I'm very proud to say that we've delivered on that. Our furniture was made in Choselle, so we've woven straw and local woods. Every single thing that you will interact with in the room was built by love. And the rooms are also like little mini galleries. You have paintings on the walls from local artists and so on. So it's a properly curated space, and it's begun to do well on the local, regional, and international market.
So, what is the end goal in terms of the number of rooms you plan to have when this project is all said and done?
Well, currently we have 14 spaces, 14 like 1 4, and we were aiming to open with 9 rooms, but because of COVID and the an increase in everything, we ended up with 4 rooms when we opened last year, May of 2023. We opened with 4 rooms, and we ever since added one more room. But eventually we will probably end up with about 14 rooms, 14 rooms altogether.
So COVID definitely is or was, and the reason why I was thinking of is I was thinking that COVID really impacted investors and operators in that space, of course, in all sectors, but in that space in particular, where you could not have gotten gas, your raw materials would have doubled, um, imported goods would just not arrive as well. Some companies would have gone out of business, so would have lost money as well. Outside of COVID, we haven't spoken about the financials yet. Outside of COVID, what was the biggest issue that you had in terms of challenges that you had outside of after COVID, and of course, ultimately the finance? Already, for those persons who have watched more than 10 episodes of the podcast, they would already know that once you say you are a contractor, we know that's problems already. Because once we have owners who are builders, it's always more challenging for a number of reasons. So tell us some of the key areas that you thought posed, quite a lot of challenges for you, and how did you manage them to get you to open up to 5 rooms, today?
Well, I mean, the challenges are so numerous, that I don't want to discourage anybody out there because it all worth it in the end. And let me add, before I even dive in, let me say that you must be passionate about this space, the hospitality and accommodation space. You must be passionate. Nothing happens in this space without passion because that is what it takes. That is what it requires. You must have an innate love for people and for this and for this career and for this I would say vocation. I call it a vocation. So there's some of the challenges that we face is obviously financial. Um, we were very slow to start. Because in the accommodation sector, you must build a reputation. People must be familiar with your name. People look at you with deep curiosity in the first year of your existence because you enter in a very saturated space with I would say more established players and people who figure it out, people who know the niche market. They figured out the marketing. They've already worked out all the alliances, all the agent partnerships. They've already finessed the network, you know, in a way that that obviously set them up, and they already know the marketing budget, how to market, who to market to, when to market. They've already weathered, so many things and have compensated for the low times and know what to do when it's the high times. We didn't even know the salary of I would say of what do you call them, of a room attendant. We didn't even know the salary of a manager. So we quickly had to get into the vein of things and basically segue into mentorship. We had to get a couple of mentors, and I'll say, Anselm, you were one of our mentors as well. But people like Sanovnik, as well, who is the managing director of the Big Islands Resort chain of hotels and so on.
The newly appointed president of the Caribbean Tourism Organization Association as of, I think, last week. Continue.
Yes, he poured his knowledge into me. Poured his knowledge. I remember I was looking at, I look at both of you and I say, but wait a minute, like why you guys are being so generous? And then, but then it wasn't too far fetched from who I am as well. And I believe that that spirits attract, like spirits attract. But the lesson that I learned is that that you have to think 10 steps ahead, and you must be able to think on your feet because you're dealing with the dynamic of human beings, and you're dealing with all sorts of nationalities and cultures and and personalities. This is not stationary goods that you deal with here. It's literally accommodating human beings in a tropical environment where there are certain things that people are not used to. Like like the weather, people will want to blame you for, or like when it's too hot, even though you provided them with air conditioning. People will want to blame you if a mosquito bites them. Even when you provide them with sufficient things to protect against that. But so and you must never come across as being unreasonable with your client. The customer is always right, as they say. So but we've overcome a lot of these trials with just hard work. I could remember when our very brilliant manager, Amy Steven, when she came on the project, she had zero experience in hotel management, but she's a quick learner. And she went on the various platforms and learned the back ends of Airbnb, the Expedia, and so on, right? Because she was also very, very, very techy. And we set a goal together. And she said that my goal is to make you a super host on Airbnb as quickly as I possibly can. And to get super host status on Airbnb is not an easy thing. We got super host status in 3 months of operation.
Congrats.
And we have also got another accolade. And also if you go to our Airbnb and our Expedia profiles, you will see the comments, and it's about the service, because we went above and beyond what was expected of us. We will take guests around. We will taxi them around if we have to, get them food, accommodate them and facilitate them. So but I hope that answers your question. But it's all about passion.
I put it to you that um, you're able to accommodate all of the needs, most of the needs right now, because you haven't scaled up yet, because you're still at 4 or 5. When you get to 13, obviously you need to increase your staff complement, the demands might be more.
Absolutely.
Notwithstanding, I want to go back. Before it became fully operational. Some of the other challenges you had was around quality of labor, consistency of labor, and let's go back to builders, the site, and ultimately let's go back to financing, because in as much as we still have to respect privacy, I know our listeners want to get a sense of how do you structure something like that. Do you take a loan? Do you share the payment? Or do you buy it outright and then take another loan for the construction? Do you do bridge loan? Do you do family lending, family borrowing? But just give a sense of, just broadly, because what we're doing right now is sharing that experience, and there are people listening to you who
Right.
will call you afterwards, who are probably in the middle of this as well, and they'll call you for more advice.
Right. So we went to the commercial banks initially, right, to and attempting to get a loan. We didn't do quite well there, but where we got some traction when we went to the library credit union. And for those people who are listening in from beyond our Caribbean shores, the credit unions in the Caribbean are absolute blessing to our people. You know, it's sort of like a kudme, like I was talking about earlier on. You are the shareholders and also the owners of these financial institutions. So they work out the best possible deal for you. So that's where we got our financing from the library credit union. And but we had to go back because for some more money a couple of times, and we also had to borrow, and from friends and family at times, because the construction world is so unpredictable, and it's based on factors that you don't have control over. You know, you can't even control your own workforce at times, because if you like a bill like what we built took 2 years, so that means you're going to encounter 2 hurricane seasons. And when you have workers come to your job site and it rains and they don't work for the entire day or half of the day, you still have to pay them. Even because at times you want to finish, so you say, okay, I'll keep them around for a few hours, see if the rain subsides, and the rain never does, and and you make that foolish decision. You keep them around, you have to pay them for the entire day, and if you build a house, you have probably 5 workers, but when you build like a small boutique hotel, you probably have 20 workers. So you can imagine the payroll and what it's like. But fortunately for us, we had fantastic workers. I got all my workers from Choiseul. Choiseul is the Salvador community known for good crafters and good workmen. So about 90% of our construction guys came from Choiseul. We also dealt with some of the best contractors you have on island, the electrical contractors, J.E. Latcher did our electrical contracting. Nice Plumbing, who was a very established plumber, did our plumbing. Because I believe in working with professionals, with the best of the best. If you try to save money, I believe that you get the best and then you negotiate with them. You don't try to save money by inviting mediocrity into your fold, into your business, because eventually you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. So it was very challenging, it was very challenging. I actually gained weight, my blood pressure went up. And it's something I'll not do again. I'll never become a contractor again. Let me tell you, I bet I got fat. Because maybe I might do it full-heartedly for my maybe, but because I'm not more experienced now. And let me tell you, I basically was living in the hardwares. MNC people thought I was one of them. They thought I was working there. Some people always see me there, and you always have to be looking at materials and items and thinking ahead. When I will navigate the solution roadways, me driving around, I'll just be so fixated on buildings, like the paint, the colors, the roof, what people are using. I will stop by every project that I will see that will interest me and talk to the workers and find out what's going on. Man, I was so deep into this thing, that you won't imagine. You really have to eat, sleep, and live this thing.
I'm listening to you describe that experience, and I went through the same. I could identify with everything you just said there. And the point that you made earlier about having the passion, it is a fundamental point. And I've come to understand as I get older that being able to see things, have a vision, not everybody has that gift, because it's a blessing and could be a curse as well, because you can be so consumed by different visions, different ideas, that nothing actually gets implemented. And there's a famous saying,
Right.
don't let great be the enemy of good. I know I can't say that to you because you are an established artist. I finished this 4 years now. It took me 10 years and it's not ready yet. So I'm not putting it out. But the point I'm making is that just because you cannot do something to the high standard that you want it to be, that doesn't mean that you cannot still really sit and complete that 90%, that's that 80%. And I understand that's a personal position because I believe in results of a certain standard, as opposed to having the best possible product in the market that may take 10 years to get done. But that's just me. And so in building, I know that some of my structures, some of my condos, they're not perfect. And far from being perfect, they I see the changes that I could make in future projects. I will tell you though, that even with the experience that you have, when it comes to people, you still trust people. Well, some of us. I know people in our space who, if they get burned by a service provider, they will never ever use them again. I'm not like that. Um, I will give somebody a second chance, a third time, and get burnt and burnt again. I think if you try and cannot deliver, and you're reasonable on what our payment financial settlement is, I'll work with you again. what I have a difficulty with is when the philosophy is not, our two philosophies are not aligned, when our two value sets are not aligned, where I can't even speak to you because one, you're not accepting any responsibility for any of the defects. Two, you're not really approachable when I am the client, you the service provider. Three, I'm uncomfortable in speaking to you, and I know that regardless of what quality of work that you give me, you will still be charging me the same price, and you can be unreasonable. So there's a lot that goes into that process. And when it's all said and done, Jalim, when it's all said and done, a friend of mine who's ambassador, Bahamian ambassador to China now, Lester Cox, he was a mentor for me. He's still a mentor of mine. He told me the passion drives you. And he said that the reason why you must continue, we must continue, and people out there listening to this program, the reason why you must continue is because it's difficult, and most people will not want to go through it to see it to the other side. Um, as we wind up now, Jalim, what are some of the, I guess, the key lessons learned from this that someone listening right now, hearing your story, hearing your experience, um, and they listen and they get that. What are some of the key learnings that you would like to share with them? Just nuggets.
Well, I would say that despite all the difficulty, despite all the adversity that is naturally a part of business, and this kind of business especially, it is very rewarding. Because you deal with in a space where you have opportunity to network with like minds. You have opportunity to network with international people, with regional people, and there is nothing sweeter than generating a certain lump sum of money in a short space of time. And even when you clear your overheads, you still see that what you end up with is very decent. So it's a very rewarding space, but it's a space that only rewards quality and detail. So I would say that invest time in showing that you understand what quality is in this business. Invest time, speak to people that are in the field and take advice. And don't be afraid to go around, because you can't be in a business that you're not passionate about. So if you want to enter this space, start observing similar species. You have to be obsessed. You have to be obsessed, but you also have to have a spirit of resilience. Because people are gonna come at you, situations gonna come at you that you have to deal with. But don't take anything personally. And it's a general lesson for life, but it's certainly a lesson for business as well. Everybody has their usefulness in life and in business. Somebody who may not be able to give you a helping hand today might be very useful in positioning you tomorrow. So take care of your network. Service your relationships, and always endeavor to be better. Yeah, and take criticism well, and just keep on pushing, keep on pushing towards excellence. Because the hospitality space requires excellence. As like I said before, you deal with human beings, and people have very high standards, especially these days, because we're seeing everything on the internet. And people, you can't fool people again and tell them, well, back in the days, I could remember my father used to use he had a photographer come in and using a white lens to make a room appear larger than it is. And then, but when the people come, they're gonna find out that that it is not that big. So always be truthful to your product. Don't try to deceive your clients. You must always deliver on what you advertise. If you don't have a view, don't say you have a view. You know, manage expectations at all times and always try to exceed them. That would be my advice.
Okay, and I have to ask you I have to ask you this question. Two more questions. So you are Jalim Eudovic. Your name is in St. Lucian creative royalty. I'm not a Eudovic. I'm just a ordinary guy, teaching, for example. I'm a teacher. How do I get started if I want to build, something like that, a business like that with more than one rooms for rental? How do I start?
First of all, yeah, very important to say that I am not Jeremy Dovic in this space, in this business. I am Joe Bro. you know, so it doesn't matter who I am as an artist in my other field of endeavor. In this one, I'm a student. I'm a student and I'm learning. So I would say that there's equal opportunity for everybody. You know, um, you have to, of course, have the fundamentals of business down. You need your starting capital, so you have to work. You have to save your money. When you save your money, you take your loan. You identify, what kind of accommodation that you want to go into. I would suggest that you don't start too big. Maybe you start with 2 rooms and you work your way up steadily. But you learn, and you manage your habits, because all of us have the ability to generate revenue, but it takes discipline. Like, I don't party every night. I don't. I used to be very fond of drinking beers in my 20s. Then when I realized how much money I was spending on just leisure and pleasure, I started to abandon some of these bad habits, and that's when I really started to save money.
I,
You don't
sus-
need 10 pence of food.
I suspect those savings came after you got married. I suspect so.
Yeah, well, perhaps, but I'll say fiscal prudence is very important. So when you're into this space, always try to save money. If you could go solar, go solar. Always make sure that you have the right air conditioning systems, inverter air conditions, because that's where you will spend money in your electric bill. Um, right now, there is thankfully we have the technology of solar power that could now um, reduce your electricity bill to almost zero. You know, so look at these things and invest in these things. If you're in an area where you have a lot of rainfall, um, I think that you can invest in a cistern as well. Very very important. So and have your plumber plumb all your toilets and non drinking water um, to your system. You know, so you can save money on the water bills as well, and invest in quality, bed sheets, quality furnishings, because these are the things that when they break down on you mid operation, you're gonna have to spend a lot of money. But not only spend money, but you're gonna have to lose business sometimes to fix a problem that could have been done a lot better if you had just spent a little extra in the construction fees and so on. So always think that way. Think quality, 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 and I think that's going to save you.
Okay, gentlemen, and our last question. As a marketer, tell us about your branding and the name Hammock Suites, which I absolutely love.
Well, Hammock Suites is a name that my sister had when she was quite young. Well, as the story goes, she was at Sir Apple Lewis Community College. She was about 16 years old. And she said, you know what? I love the name Hammock, you know. I want to do a business one day called Hammock. And I think the Hammock Suites evolved after that. The logo that you seeing was something that she sketched quite brutally. And I took it and I refined it into what you see in there right now behind us, into the Hammock Suites logo. And Hammock Suites is such a brilliant name because it has this rustic connotation to it, because you know hammocks are things of relaxation. Hammock has a certain you know, alignment to the exotic, to the tropical, and so on. And so that has guided our entire aesthetic. This brand name. So the property had to be of a rustic elegance that it is today. You know, our color tones are all natural and our use of materials. Each room has a hammock in this balcony. So you know, so we are staying true to the branding, and our tagline is "Discover You." That's something that I came up with. I will claim that one. Because we wanted this place to be one of spiritual, I would say, spiritual rejuvenation, a place of supreme relaxation, a neutral space where you come and you could talk to yourself. You could discover who you are inside, discover your creativity, be inspired by the use of materials, be inspired by the aesthetic that we have. Because all our bathrooms have glass windows, by the way, have glass walls, by the way. So you know, so from your shower you can see the view, and you can see your entire room from your shower, and you can control it because there's a curtain that you can draw. You know, so so you know that's the energy, that's the brand that we've stayed true to. You know, is this airy, open, you know, free up, vibesy brand. And I
Okay.
advise everybody out there that you know, when you conceptualize your brand, think of an experience, because it's often said that Walt Disney don't sell rides and movies and so on. What they sell is family.
Unforgettable
McDonald's do not
memories.
sell, and memories. McDonald's or KFC, they don't sell food. What they sell is happiness. You know, so you have to know what you sell. In Hammock Suites don't sell short term accommodation. We sell vibes. We sell energy. You know, the place where you come is a Red Bull for the soul. Is the caffeine for the soul. Is the coconut water for your soul. That's what we are.
I think you're better in marketing than construction. It sounds that way. I have, I have, I have a bonus question before we leave. Bonus question, because I know some of my audience will ask that question or will want me to ask you that question. What's it like working with your sister as a business partner, and how do you resolve conflicts?
It is blissful, but it's also arduous because I'm the little brother. You know, I'm little JJ in my family, so I, you know, so that perception had to be totally demolished. But yes, still that's what makes it works. You know, is the love and so on, right? So we had a few conflicts naturally when you're building. Oh, and let me give you a very interesting statistic, right? A lot of couples, maybe about 10 to 15%, like I was reading somewhere, maybe even 20% of couples who venture into construction together, build a home for their future, end up separating and end up in divorce. So it is very grueling, you know, the whole construction thing. But you know, we have a lot of just mutual respect. You know, we decided from day one that it is a democracy. I could remember we even getting our workers in on the consensus many times, because I will be designing everything on my iPad. We had an architect, but but we kind of scrapped a lot of what he did, and I became like the lead architect on my iPad. So I'll come up with about 3 different variations of everything, and then we'll have these grueling arguments about it, and then take a little voting, like a little vote, And our foreman was in on it, our painter, our mister, even the laborers will say, "Bossman, I like that, I like that, I like that, So that's the kind of participation that was nurtured from day one. So so it was how we resolved a lot of the issues that we had, with consensus based.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jalim, for sharing that experience with us. I've been to Hammock Suites. It's a phenomenal property. The views are breathtaking. The artwork, the custom furniture inside the rooms, that's another level. And we invite everyone, visitors, to check them out online. We'll get the link shown. Just search Hammock Suites in Lucia. But our first episode in 8 months back was one which I was really excited about, and I always learn so much. As a St. Lucian, as a Caribbean national, I'm just so proud when I get to see friends, families, siblings working together to create a product that is of a global standard. Hammock Suites. So you've been listening to another episode of the Caribbean Property Investing Podcast. Remember, we're back. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and even Twitter. Share the links with as many people as possible. Subscribe and like, and look out for our next episode where we're going to be talking about what has happened in the last 9 months, what my journey has been, as well as what's the first year of retirement looking like. See you next time.
Congratulations and thank you for tuning in to the Caribbean's first property investing podcast. We want to help Caribbean people create wealth and achieve financial freedom through property investing. Our show provides general advice based on personal experiences and is for educational purposes only. For more information, resources, and past episodes, visit us at CaribbeanPropertyInvesting.com. Remember to click the subscribe button so you never miss a show. Let's go.